If you've ever thought about investing internationally, you're in the right place. Today, I'm sitting down with Lauren Cohen. She is an expert, actually has roots in Canada, and she does work in the US. And I've called her previously to discuss all kinds of things about setting up businesses, visas, obviously real estate investing. She has a background in all of these things. I have since then referred Lauren to many different people. She's come into investment groups that we're a part of as well. And you're talking to two people who actually know each other. So welcome to the Prime People podcast. It's where I give you the ability to meet people in my network. If you're new to the show, hit the subscribe notification button so you don't miss any future insights from experts like Lauren. And if you've never seen an episode, go to the back catalog. We've had guests like Ryan Saran, Scott McGilvery, and many, many others. But Lauren, welcome to the Prime People podcast.
I am in good company. Thanks, Justin. It is, it is a whole different world when you've actually met the person, because over Zoom and over COVID, we had all those challenges of not meeting the people and feeling connected. And then, of course, then we got to meet. It was really nice. As a matter of fact, I remember being like, I think that's Justin when we were at the Inspire event, right? And sure enough, that was you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what led to this conversation. We first met on Clubhouse, and then we connected. And when we were doing a lot of business in Florida and kind of looking at going cross-border, we put a little bit of a pin in that. We're going to be going back to it because we've done more referrals kind of in that area. So I know Q4, that is something Shannon and I are planning, but let's jump right into it. Let's start with the real estate investing strategy for people that maybe are in Canada, investing in the States to Canada. Give us like at a high level on what you see, because you're definitely a black belt in this area.
Thank you. It's good to be a black belt in some area because I'm certainly not in karate. But so it's hard to really pinpoint one specific strategy that works, because for us, we create a business around the strategies that the clients want. And so there's two kinds of clients that we work with. The first is the traditional real estate investor from Canada that just wants to expand their portfolio south of the border or internationally, but mainly south of the border, and doesn't really know how to get started. And so we set up a structure for them. We bring in all of our experts and set up a structure so that they can invest. And that investing can be really in any shape or form. It can be BRRRRs, it can be mixed use, it can be multifamily, it can be Airbnb, lots of people going to Orlando, imagine why. And so but at the end of the day, the goal is that we offer them a full service package where it's not just like you get the legal or you get the taxes or you get the real estate, you get the whole package with us. And then we can bring in our realtor partners, because as you know, I'm also a realtor, and that's part of why we work together so well, and make sure that the client's needs are met. The other side of our business is taking that real estate investing or business investing, but mainly real estate, because that's our signature program, as you probably know, is how to immigrate through real estate, and taking that real estate investing and turning it into a business that will work for a visa. Because of course, most people start investing in real estate because it's passive, and you can't get a visa through passive investing. So how the heck do we do this? Well, we created this program, and really what my superhero power is transitioning that passive real estate investor into an active real estate business owner, and turning their passive portfolio into a business that will work for a visa, and putting all of the nice little bows and touches on it so that they have a painless process of getting that visa that they want and need.
Yeah, I think in our space, I mean, we see it every day where people are very much do-it-yourselfers, right? They think, well, why do I need a professional? And I don't care if you're talking about a lawyer, a mechanic, a real estate agent, or anybody else. I can save a couple bucks doing it myself. And then they go into places that they don't have market intelligence and they don't have a base of understanding where the roadblocks are. And you can spend hundreds of hours doing something and then realizing that you went down the wrong path, where if you went down this path, it would have probably ended up with a goal in mind. We actually have a guest that's on the live stream, Christina Smallhorn. Nice to see you, Christina. I was actually on her channel last week. We talked about the influx of foreign buyers into the marketplace in depth. Yeah. Christina, I'll connect you with Lauren. You two should definitely know each other. Christina's got a wicked YouTube channel.
Awesome.
But what we were talking about was, she said, like, how can people get into housing or like, beat out the REITs when they're real estate investing? And I said to her, like, relationships was my answer. I said, if I'm looking for multifamily buildings or land, my commercial squad's out there right now canvassing for off-market deals.
Mhm.
The level of aptitude that they have is very different than a do-it-yourselfer. So, you know, let's pretend I'm taking the role of somebody that wants to come into the US. I'm a Canadian citizen. I own a business here, and I want to buy some short-term rentals and maybe use them myself and become part of that community. Where would you start me off in this process?
Yeah. So it really depends on where you are in Canada, not physically speaking, but where you are in Canada in terms of what you're doing if you're already a real estate investor. And again,
Okay.
what your short and long term goals are. Because at the end of the day, not everybody thinks they want a visa.
Yeah.
And not everybody understands what that means. So people think that getting a visa for the US means you have to live in the US. And guess what? It doesn't. And that's the beauty of the visa that we specialize in, which is called the E2, which is a treaty investor visa. And the benefit of that, other than the huge benefit of getting your social security number and as a real estate investor, having access to 1031, which you don't as a Canadian generally because it's a whole CRA issue, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not a tax expert.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, people start and say, okay, I don't think I want a visa. I just want to set up a structure so I can invest. And then 2 weeks later or 2 months later, they're like, oh, wait, I think I really could benefit from a visa because of all these other things. And I don't have to move there full time, but at least I have options. And during COVID, this became extremely, extremely attractive because people wanted a way to leave the Great White North, right?
For
And
sure.
come
Yeah.
to the US. And this was their ticket. And so, as you know, last year, I was like beyond crazy, intense, busy because
Yeah.
everybody wanted an opportunity and an option. And this is like an insurance policy. So the first step is always to determine what are your short and long-term goals. And maybe even if your short-term goal is just to set up a real estate investing portfolio and structure, let's at least consider that maybe in the future you'll look at a long-term opportunity, and let's set you up so that if you do decide to do that, you're set up for success and you don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. So like you said, if I had a dollar for all the do-it-yourselfers out there that come to me and say, yeah, like I can do this for, I can pay X $500 to set up an LLC, right? But then you're going to pay the CRA tens of thousands of dollars because you didn't do it right. And
Yeah.
so it's being a lawyer, it's always been a challenge because I'm a cost center. I've always been looked at as a cost center, but really I'm not. I'm a profit center because I'm allowing you to make more money by working with me to make sure that your setup is proper, that you get your visa without having to struggle, that you don't have a denial, that you can run your business, that you can access those properties in the US, that you can bring your Canadian business to the US, even if it's not in the real estate space. And it's a full gamut of services that we offer because, as you know, Justin, we're not just doing immigration law. We are A to
Sure.
Z, notice the Z, A to Z, all the way through. We help you figure out what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? What's the business model? What's the structure? Get your bank account, get your business plan, get your visa, do the legal, all the stuff. It's everything, soup to nuts. And if you just want an immigration lawyer, I'm not the right person for you. But if you want somebody that's really going to partner with you, then that's what we do. And we don't take that role lightly at all.
Yeah. And what I like about what you explain is there seems to be some thoughtful planning. Like you keep going back to the beginning where you say like, well, what's your plan? Like, it's great to say I want an E2 visa. It's great to say I want to buy an investment property. It's great to say I want to do this. But what you shared is an insight that I want to share everybody watching this channel. If you're a real estate agent or you're an investor, more often than not, when I discuss with somebody, when they get into the industry or they're a brand new investor, the first question I have is like, well, what's your end game? Like, do you want to have a portfolio of 500 doors and have a complete management company and because that's as passive as that is, that's a super active business. Do you want to get into land development and start redeveloping land and getting it papered so that you can sell it to builders? Do you want to get into the short-term rental game? Do you want to provide low-income housing to people that are struggling and you want to fill that need and that desire? Like, each one of those segments has a completely different pathway. And when I called you initially, it really allowed us to step back and say, okay, let's take time and do this thoughtfully in terms of what does prime look like from a global perspective? What does our life look like from a day-to-day perspective? And that's where we're getting a lot of clarity is, well, it is a global village, and it's kind of forcing us to think about what that next step looks like, because we sent out, I think, 35 referrals to the Florida area within probably the last 6 months, UK, Texas, BC, Israel. Like, it is a global village. And then this next point you'll get, because I know you're from Toronto and you know this area. We spend time in Muskoka, we spend time in Florida, and we live here. The snowbirds go to Florida in the winter, and I see all the same Canadians down there that I see up here, like builders, developers, investors that I know are in Florida. Then I go to Muskoka in the summer, and I joke that the sunbirds are like leaving the heat in Florida, and a lot of them are up in Muskoka. So I'm like, okay, now I'm navigating 3 different places. If I wanted to do that in the States, what are some things that I need to think about in terms of how I'm going to plan that?
So first of all, those 35 referrals to Florida realtors need me to be in between to set up all their structure. So I need all those 35 people to come to talk to me about that structure, so that
they're not all investors. So a lot of those were just single family homes, but I did make the connection. You're right.
But anyway, the point is that, yeah, it is, there are 2 types of real estate purchasers in Florida. Well, there's many types, but from Canada. The person that's going to just use it for their own personal use, which you don't need to worry about a structure because you're not generally earning income from that. And the person that wants to actually earn income from operating an Airbnb or doing some type of business-oriented investment with that and renting it, whether it's short or long-term. So that's where you need a structure. Okay. So for you, we have to navigate what makes the most sense for you and your lifestyle, right? I mean, we talked about this when we originally spoke. And what are your goals? Your goals are to have time and financial freedom, right? And to have time and financial freedom and to be able to build prime as you wish in the US. Let's say run events. Let's say, take your roadshow to the US. You need a visa, because otherwise you're going to be restricted in some way from actually running your business. Okay. Every Canadian can have access to an B1, B2 for a short term to come into the US to do moderate things, but you cannot earn business income. So why in the world would you not take advantage of the opportunity, not you specifically, Justin, I'm saying in general, of the opportunity, because it's really an opportunity to open a business in the US, to invest in the US and get a visa and be able to sit at the table with all of the other Americans and American residents, like US residents, green card holders, and be able to make deals at the same table. Because when you are Canadian and you don't have a social security number, you just don't have the same leverage until you do 40 or 50 deals a year like some of our partners and colleagues do. So while you're getting to that point, let's build a business for you so that you're at that same table and you have a level playing field. Now, what we do is we would start by setting up a structure that allows you to invest in US real estate so that you don't have to, so you're not subject to double taxation and that you are protected from legal liability. That's our first step, okay? No matter what. Now, if there's a visa in mind, we're going to set up a different structure. We're going to offer you a different business because we're going to create a business around your real estate investing. We're going to create a strategy because people come to the US and they're like, oh, I just want to invest. Where should I invest? I'm like, I can't tell you where to invest. I can tell you what's landlord friendly. I can tell you where the deals are. Like there's deals in Ohio. It doesn't mean that's
I heard that. Yeah.
Invest, okay? Because deals don't mean income necessarily. So it's all a trade-off because everywhere, I mean, right now, unfortunately, there's parts of Florida that are going to be up for fire sale very soon, not just because of the hurricane, but because of the price points and the fact that they're just not able to pay the mortgages. So there are opportunities pretty much everywhere. What you need to do is figure out which opportunities make the most sense for you and your family and your short and long-term goals. I always said, Justin, from the beginning of running a business, that you can't get, like you said, the end game. You can't get anywhere these days without a GPS. Like what am I going to do? Just drive around? When I came to London last month, I guess it was actually exactly a month ago, July 31st. When I came to London, I had no idea where I was going. And if not for, I mean, listen, GPS is not perfectly reliable and you're going to have some blips in the road. But at the end of the day, we need a destination to figure out how to get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if I'm thinking of going to the States, and again, putting myself in the seat of the viewer because I'm trying to provide value to them, am I picking location first? Am I picking, do I want to live there? Do I want to run a business? Like high level, what should that roadmap look like?
Again, this is such a customized and specific answer to each prospective client.
Sure.
Most people that come to me are like, I want to invest in Florida or I want to live in Florida.
Okay.
That's about 80% of my Canadian clients. Okay. The other 20% go to Texas and North Carolina and this and that and whatever, and Arizona. But the location isn't as relevant as the business model. The
Okay.
location only becomes relevant when you are setting up your structure, your corporations, your entities, right? Because the model is going to work, whether it's real estate investing or getting a visa. The model is going to work wherever you go. All we have to do is figure out the best location to implement that model. And then when we figure that part out, that's when we decide where to set up the entities.
And then you're talking business model wise, like, do I have a bricks and mortar location? Is it a
Correct.
place that I'm basing a business out of and hiring local? And that's what you're talking about. Like, what does the business
And
actually
also the
offer?
type of real estate investing that you might be doing, because you're not going to invest in multifamily in Boca Raton, Florida. It's just not going to
Yeah,
happen. Like, unless you're
sure.
a little nuts. I mean, I'd love to, but you'd have to be a mega millionaire and whatever. But so that also impacts where, and whether you want to live where you own the properties, or if you don't. Like, I just had a client close on 2 properties in South Carolina, and they're going to live in the Orlando area. That's totally fine. You don't have to own where you live. You know this because everybody
Sure.
started investing virtually. But it's all about creating a strategy that is customized for the client. And I think, like, a lot of people come to me and say, what's the structure? I will not answer that question. Generally, it's 2 entities, but it's not the same 2 entities for everybody, and it
Yeah.
depends on your tax situation in your home country. So then they get upset and they think I'm holding back, but I'm not. It's just that I can't advise
Yeah.
you appropriately until I know more about your situation, because that would be inappropriate and unethical, and bad practice on my part.
I answer that question every day. Hey, Justin, how's the market? And like residential, commercial investing, London, St. Thomas, Grand Bay, like what are we talking about here? Right. And I think part of the problem is the media does such a terrible job, in my opinion, of just baiting people with headlines. It's like,
Yeah.
it's because that's just what it is. People want to trigger the reader just to react without getting into the minutia of what they're trying to actually accomplish. 2 questions for you, actually. Like, can you give me a general profile, no specifics, obviously, of like who's somebody that you represented, or what was their approach that was very successful? Like, who's a great example of somebody who's done this?
Sure. So we created this business in a box. I think I mentioned it, and I honestly don't recall because it's my second podcast today. But we created a business in a box about a year and a half ago, and our our second client in that business in a box. So what the heck does that mean? So basically, if you were to do a pure visa through real estate investing, you'd need at least 8 or 10 doors, because otherwise you don't have volume. You don't. That's a marginal business. You don't need employees, and you don't need staff, and you're not going to show enough of a return. And it doesn't
Sure.
matter if you've invested $10 million or bought a $40 million house. It's not enough because it's not a business. Okay. So you can either have 8 or 10 doors, which is going to cost you, about $500,000, even if it's small down payments, up, because as a Canadian, you're going to put 30%, right? So let's say at the low end, it's between 4 and 500,000 to invest, and you have to close on those properties and so on. Okay. The other option is to invest in our business, which is called Strategic REI, which is a business in a box that is run by my partner. You may know her, Carolyn Gallardo, and she is from Calgary. So she's friends with Natasha. It's actually how I met
Okay.
her. And so anyway, Carolyn and I came up with this business model because I had so many real estate investors coming to me and saying, how do I do this? And I don't want to own 8 doors, and I don't want to wait that long. So we created this kind of it's almost like an unfranchise, Justin. And it's like strange because it's a hard thing to explain. But if you understand the franchise model, which is basically just systems, right? You buy the systems, you buy the processes, you buy the model. Our model is 4 entities. That's the only thing that's cut and paste. 4 entities with the names that the people choose. And then we build a custom business with all of these systems for the client based on what they want to do. So if they want to do multifamily or commercial, we will build a business around their goals. That is the beauty of this model. So suddenly this strategic REI, this business in a box, becomes the business. So you don't need 8 or 10 doors. You need 1 or 2, because now there's a business. Why does that matter? Because the government frowns upon real estate as an investment path to a visa, because real estate is a tangible asset and your money is supposed to be at risk. So there's not enough risk. So that's why it's been so challenging. So we created this kind of in-between business that allows people to get a visa through their model of real estate investing. And we will direct you in a model that works, because if it's if you're building custom homes, that may not work because it's one-offs, right? You're not creating enough jobs. But we may add custom homes. Maybe you're building a custom home community. That's a different story, because then you're actually having an economic impact. So this is kind of what we do to bring the client from I want to get a visa to, okay, now we can actually do it. So this client came to us. She was a very significant real estate investor in Western Canada. Okay. She had over 100 doors and she was doing extremely well. She came to us. She said, well, what do I need you for? Because I obviously know what I'm doing in real estate. Aha, but you don't know what you're doing in US real estate. And she has been one of our biggest success stories. And she is on the West Coast. Thank God she's fine. From the hurricane that's going on, Idalia. But she is just so grateful, because we basically gave her a path to the US with the real estate that she wanted to use. And we looked at several franchises and none of them worked for her. And she's just so happy. She doesn't even have time to talk to me because she's so busy. So anyway, she's a great story, because she was very apprehensive at first, and then so grateful when she got her visa. She literally I remember the 48 hours before, she must have texted me 40 times. What about this? And what about this? And what about this? And then she got the visa in 6 minutes. And she said, wow, that was the most challenging and best 6 minutes of my entire life. So, and you can find her story. Her name is Heather. She's one of our video testimonials. So you can find her story, and she's amazing.
I enjoy that story too, because I mean, people at her level too, everybody's trying to get a piece of them, right? And I think one thing we try and do on this channel, and that I've always tried to do with my community, is work with people that you see over time treat people well. They build a good reputation and name for themselves, and they build something real, right? Where I like having these conversations and digging in almost as if I'm the person, just out of curiosity, because I know somebody at the other end of this camera or audio podcast maybe thinking along the same lines of like, I'd love to invest in the US, but I don't even know where to start. And they don't even bother trying something that could change their entire life. Now, let's flip the script on that and go the other direction. I'm not going to ask for an individual person's name or story, because I know this is probably an avatar of person, but like, give me an example of somebody that you just see that keeps running up against a brick wall and like just the complete opposite of a success story.
Sure. I have one. Actually, I can think of one in particular. They came to me, somehow they found me through, and they're not real estate investors, but they found me through one of those real estate, like as a realtor, they found me. I don't know. I guess they heard me on YouTube or something. They found me, and I got a thing from the National Association of Realtors. And I was like, this is unusual, because I'm not, even though I'm a realtor, I'm not actively plugging real estate. And so
I always forget you're an agent, honestly, like just in our conversations, because you're just a person that knows a lot of things. And
listen, I'll tell you honestly, Justin, if I weren't a realtor, I don't think I would be doing this model, because it's kind of that combo that's so unique that allows me to build that real estate based model and refer. I'm a great referrer. I don't sell real estate. Anyway, so this client, it's a couple and a child, a family, like a single child. And they came to me, and I remember I was at the beach, and they started texting me or messaging me like crazy. And I was like, okay, I was at the beach. See, you don't say that every day in London or Toronto.
You'd be surprised. I live in Grand Bend, so I do say that every day.
But not in the winter. But
I'm in Florida in the winter. So
there you go, smart. So anyway, they came to me and they were like, "Do you know what we can do? Do you have a business for us?" And I did, and I gave them some options, and they signed a contract with me. Okay, and they then had some kind of challenge with wiring the money, and then they bailed on the contract.
mhm.
And this doesn't happen very often, but it does happen because people get spooked or get scared, or sometimes even during the first phase, they're overwhelmed by the options. So they left. 2 months later, I'm at a baseball game. My son plays baseball. The guy starts texting me like furiously. I need your help. My visa was denied. I'm like, oh, that wasn't 2 months later. I'm sorry. It was more like 6 or 8 months later. And I'm like, oh, that's a shocker. Like, I didn't say that, but I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
shocker. And so he said, can you help me? I said, well, I can help you, but we're going to have, like, he had already purchased a business and whatever. I can help you, but we're going to have to analyze your business. Oh, I want to get out of the business. I said, right. I want to put you in that business. Like, it's an old guy and they put him in a landscaping business. This is a
Yeah.
guy like in his late 50s or something. I'm not. So anyway, to make a long story short, they've probably come to 6 or 8 of my webinars. They are constantly messaging me, and they are at the end of they ended up getting a change of status visa, and that they're at the end, and they're going to end up having to leave because they didn't follow my lead, and they
Yeah.
like it was just a very harsh experience, and they just couldn't afford me because they'd already spent all of this money with the wrong people.
Yeah. And I think stepping back sometimes, I mean, I'm very reactive. I was just talking to my creative director. I was talking to my ops manager this morning. Justin's not the person that should make all the decisions or organize things anymore, because Justin will make decisions very, very quickly. And that's where we'll step back and know that, there is a season and a time, and you don't have to make rash decisions very quickly. And I think people make the same mistake in real estate investing. They get hyped up because of some YouTube video or seminar that they go to, and then they take a couple pieces from it, and then again say, hey, I can just do it myself because I know the industry. And then they make one critical mistake, and if you think it's expensive to use a professional, you should see what it may cost you if you end up doing it yourself or using an amateur. So I'd encourage anybody to make sure that they're going at things the right way with the right advice around them. I guess another question for you as a professional, this is just good education for any entrepreneurs. How do you advise people to check you out, check the receipts so that they know they're dealing with a professional, and how just to advise people who have businesses on how to build something like that?
Sure. So I'm pretty easy to check because, first of all, I'm licensed in 2 countries as a lawyer, and I'm a realtor. So that's easy. First of all, you can check there. You can check my references. We have video testimonials, people that are willing to give us referrals all over the place. You can. Yeah. I'm very like Justin. I'm not Justin. Okay, Justin has a much more potent presence than me.
I don't think so, but
have
thank you.
a presence on social media, and people know me. And listen, not everybody is going to be happy every day. It's just not possible. And there are definitely naysayers. People think I'm too expensive. People think that I don't even know what people think, to be honest. But I know that the most common challenge is that they think I'm very expensive. But look,
Sure.
At the end of the day, we always get what we pay for. Okay. And I like to have service. I'm all about service, and I'd rather pay more to get that handheld service, that white glove service, than pay less and have to do things myself. I just don't have time. Okay, I'm a single mom and I run a few businesses, and there's no time. If you have time to do piecemealing, go do it. Knock yourself out. But if you want somebody that's going to help you and be available to you all the time, that's me. And that's what I pride myself on. I was just talking with one of my newer clients today that I met in Ottawa when I was doing my roadshow. And they said, every time we speak to you, this is so nice, you put our minds at ease. And that's the best message I can get, is putting their minds at ease. These people have a young family. They're Brazilian, Canadian, and now they want to move to the US.
Amazing.
And pardon me?
I said that's amazing.
And they are wonderful, wonderful clients. And the thing is that it is a family, and we are not a high volume company. We never will be. when I say I care about my clients, I mean, I live, sleep, and breathe my clients. My son knows all my clients' names,
That's cool.
and right, and that's who I am. And I have a coach, and we're always talking about scaling. This is not scalable. You
Yeah.
cannot scale. Like, there's parts of business that are scalable. There's affiliates. There's all kinds of stuff. But this, me, is not scalable. I just couldn't. I wouldn't sleep at night.
Yeah. And I think having a, craftsman type business like that is a great approach for people. And that's where I kind of want to pivot a little bit to the business side of things for the last little bit of the podcast and dig into kind of how you came across this niche, how you built your business, a bit of your background. But for people watching this, I think no different than
Now
having a plan when you're building a business. Like, what's your model going to be? So, I mean, did you become a lawyer first or an agent first? Where did you grow up? Like, give me the Lauren Cohen kind of bio.
So I grew up in Thornhill, Ontario, and moved to the US in '01. Well, I moved here in the 90s, but then I moved back. I hated it. I was miserable. And then I moved
You
back.
hated Canada or the
I
US?
hated living in Florida.
Okay.
And I lived here for 3 years. And I came back to Canada, and I had a job, and I was living in Thornhill and working in Mississauga, and it was
Okay.
November or October. Not the smartest time to move back to Canada when you're driving from Thornhill to Mississauga. I wasn't working downtown to start. Anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up working downtown, and I moved downtown. I should have kept that place, but that's another story. And I came back to Florida in '01, and I started a business with a partner who ended up absconding with a lot of my money, all of my money from the sale of my property in downtown Toronto. So I stayed, and I kept persevering, and then I decided, instead of struggling to have a job, I would build my own business. So I started writing business plans for immigration visas, and it kind of took. Then I got married, and for the second time, and my then husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon. He was put into immigration jail. He was deported, and he was barred from entry to the US, again, on the way back from our honeymoon. This is what catapulted me to do what I do. Because if that had not happened, I probably wouldn't have really, even though I was a little bit in the immigration space, and of course I was in the process of getting my green card at the time, I probably wouldn't have ended up doing what I do. And I was determined that others should not face a similar fate, but should have control of their destiny and know everything. And that's when my business started morphing and developing. And I got my green card, I got my real estate license. There was no connection between the two until COVID, when a friend of mine from Little League, I don't play, my son, okay, I already said baseball. So a friend of mine from Little League, who's from Ottawa, wow, lots of Ottawa connections.
I was going to say.
Said, my friends, they just want a simple, done for you process. And I'm like, okay, let me see how I can make that happen. And I created this 10 steps to immigrate through real estate, and it put me on the map. And that's really how it all happened.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. It's called Investing Across Borders.
Investing Across Borders. Everybody go Google that. Yeah, and check her out too.
Everything that we do is around the brand Investing Across Borders.
Yeah. No, I love it. I was actually looking for the title of this episode and then put it on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, there's your channel. I wanted to ask you that so people can come connect with you. I'd encourage them to go connect with you as well on your social channels. I got a couple more rapid fire questions, and I'm going to get you out of here. Up to this point in your career, what is the biggest piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were starting over today?
Always trust your gut.
I like that. How has failure shaped your life?
Oh, failure is driven. I mean, look, I just told you about a kind of failure, right? I think that you cannot really be successful until you've experienced failure, because you don't know what success really tastes like. I'm a single mom, and it's not been easy. And at the beginning of COVID, we were dead. Not literally. Business was completely dead. Who the heck was moving? Nobody even knew what the heck was going on, right? Yeah. And so I started, I didn't even know what to do. There was no money coming in. It was just a crazy time. And I hit the bottom business-wise, and I pulled myself up, and last year was our biggest year ever. It was insane. So Failure, through adversity comes prosperity, and I really believe that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Through resistance comes resilience, right? It's like going to the gym. You break down your muscles, they come back stronger. I was going to ask you to side note before I get to my last question for you. Like, what trends are you noticing now? So obviously there was a flock of people being like, I want to go down to Florida and they open up businesses and like making very reactionary decisions. Are you seeing like a stabilization? Like, what are you seeing trend wise happening in the cross-border investing immigration space right now?
It was very quiet for a few months, but it's
Yeah.
really starting to heat up. And I think that part of that, sorry to say, is driven by the fact that there's no question that COVID is coming back. And also people are looking for alternatives. Additionally, of course, the weather, as soon as fall starts, business booms. And that's what happens. It's very seasonal and cyclical here.
Yeah.
So that, and I just did this 7-city tour, which prompted a lot of interest, and now people are talking and so on and so forth. So
Amazing. So the last question I have for you, because you made time for my audience, what I would like to ask you is if you had a message for all of them to leave them with, what would that message be?
please don't do it yourself. Okay. I mean, have a consultation, do it the right way, hire professionals, whether it's me or someone else. And honestly, just don't make the same mistakes that so many of your peers have made, because it's just not worth it. You're going to hit the ground, and I'd rather you hit the ground running than hit the ground and just be like, because there is opportunity, and don't be afraid of taking that first step. Take advantage of the opportunity to speak with us,
Yeah.
professionals that will help you to take that first step, so that you go through each step with a guided tour kind of thing.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I always say this on my channel and the Prime channel. I don't care if you use me or not. I'm not selling you anything, right? Like I don't make my money through my transactions. I make my money through my relationships. My relationships with people like you, Lauren, and other people who have been on this channel have given me more opportunities and have made me wealthier than any transaction ever will. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. If you're listening to the audio podcast, make sure you leave us a rating or a review. Check out the live stream on YouTube. We are here typically Thursdays, 1 to 2 p.m. If there's any guests that you think would make amazing guests, DM me on Instagram and connect with me as well there. And make sure to go connect with Lauren and give her a thank you if you got even one thing from this episode. But Lauren, excited to have you on the next one in person, and I'll catch up with you if we ever cross paths in person.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.
Yeah, for sure. See ya.
Bye.